The Galactic Exchange Station hummed with the constant chatter of a dozen different species, their translators working overtime to bridge the gaps between civilizations. Marcus Chun stood at the registration desk, his human credentials glowing softly on the holographic display as he waited for his academic exchange approval. "Next," called the Zephyrian clerk, her crystalline voice cutting through the ambient noise. Marcus stepped forward, noting how her iridescent blue skin caught the station's artificial light. "I'm here for the Linguistic Studies program," Marcus said in Standard Galactic, his accent thick with Earth inflections. The Zephyrian's head tilted, and a sound escaped her throat, a musical trill that could only be laughter. "Oh, you're one of the humans," she said, her own Standard Galactic crisp and perfect. "Your accent is ... quaint, very primitive sounding." Behind her, two other Zephyrian students had gathered, drawn by the commotion. They exchanged glances and joined in the musical laughter. "It's like listening to a child trying to speak," one of them whispered, not bothering to lower her voice. Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks, but he maintained his composure. He'd encountered this attitude before during his preparation for the exchange. Most galactic species considered human linguistic abilities to be rudimentary at best. After all, humans had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years, while civilizations like the Zephyrians had been exploring the stars for millennia. "I apologize for my pronunciation," Marcus said carefully, still in Standard Galactic. "I'm still learning." "Oh, don't worry about it," the clerk said, her tone patronizing as she processed his documents. "Most species struggle with proper linguistic development. Humans especially, considering you only have one tongue and such limited vocal range. It's quite remarkable that you can speak at all, really." The other students giggled, their laughter like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Marcus nodded politely and waited as his credentials were verified. Then something remarkable happened. The clerk's computer began displaying information about Marcus's academic background, and her musical laughter died in her throat. Her large, opalescent eyes widened as she read. This can't be correct," she murmured, switching to what she assumed was her native language, thinking the human couldn't understand. In rapid, complex Zephyrian, she said to her friends, "The database shows he speaks 47 languages. That has to be an error." Marcus cleared his throat and responded in perfect accent-free Zephyrian, his pronunciation so precise it could have been generated by their most advanced AI systems. "I assure you, the database is correct. Though technically, it's 53 languages now. I learned 6 more during my journey here." The 3 Zephyrians froze completely, their bioluminescent markings flickering in shock. The clerk's hand hovered over her workstation, trembling slightly. How is that possible?" she whispered, still in Zephyrian. "No species can master our tonal complexities without the proper vocal anatomy. We have 4 vocal cords and resonance chambers that creates 17 distinct harmonic frequencies." "Yes," Marcus interrupted gently, his Zephyrian accent now indistinguishable from a native speaker. "Your language also employs bioluminescent patterns as a secondary communication layer, which I obviously cannot replicate, but I can recognize and interpret them." He paused, then continued, "You're displaying confusion and embarrassment right now, mixed with a deep curiosity that's causing your chromatophores to pulse in the delta pattern characteristic of academic excitement." One of the other students stepped closer, her skin cycling through colors Marcus recognized as astonishment. But humans are supposed to be linguistically primitive. "The Galactic Council's reports are based on very limited data," Marcus sighed, switching back to Standard Galactic. "You see, humans have something most species don't. We're obsessed with communication. We don't just learn languages to trade or negotiate. We learn them to understand." He gestured to the bustling station around them. "In the 50 years since first contact, humans have documented over 3,000 galactic languages and dialects. We don't just learn to speak them, we learn to think in them. Every human child learns at least 5 languages before adulthood. Not because we have to, but because we want to. The clerk looked down at her workstation again, her skin now a deep purple that Marcus knew indicated profound confusion. But your neural structures. The scans show human brains are smaller than most species. Size isn't everything, Marcus said with a slight smile. Human brains are incredibly plastic. We form new neural pathways constantly. What we lack in raw processing power, we make up for in adaptability. He leaned forward slightly, his voice taking on an educational tone. Did you know that humans are the only species that naturally develops what we call linguistic empathy? When we learn your language, we don't just memorize vocabulary and grammar. We actually begin to understand how your species thinks, feels, and perceives the universe. The second student, her skin now bright yellow with curiosity, asked, "What do you mean?" Marcus switched to her language, a complex tonal system from the Rigel system that required precise pitch control. When I speak Rigelian, I don't just use your words. I begin to experience time the way you do in overlapping layers rather than linear progression. When I speak Zephyrian, I can almost perceive the electromagnetic spectrums that influence your emotional states. The three aliens stood in stunned silence. Finally, the clerk managed to ask, "How many human linguists are there?" "Every human is a linguist," Marcus replied simply. "It's just how we're built. We collect languages like some species collect minerals or energy signatures. We can't help ourselves." He picked up his now-approved credentials. The really interesting part is that we're just getting started. Earth linguists estimate we'll have cataloged and learned to speak every major galactic language within the next century. Not for conquest or trade advantage, but simply because we find the diversity of thought and expression irresistible. As Marcus walked away, he heard the three Zephyrians speaking in hushed, rapid tones about the implications of a species that could truly understand anyone, anywhere in the galaxy. He smiled to himself, thinking about the report he'd send back. To Earth, first contact successful. They underestimated us again. Recommend we continue letting them think we're primitive. The surprise factor is proven quite useful. Behind him, the clerk was already sending urgent messages to the Galactic Council, her bioluminescent patterns flashing in patterns that Marcus recognized as the Zephyrian equivalent of "we may have seriously misjudged the humans." The linguistic revolution had begun, one conversation at a time.